come to the bold analysis. Some few days ago, there was a list of 11 parastatals that was leaked from the treasury, and these were parastatals that were supposed to be privatized in the first privatization program to be initiated by William Samoei Ruto. And the Kenya Kwanza administration served the country a charade of 11 parastatals. So apparently, just for better part of this, when this discussion was going on, I've been talking to some few members, some eminent members of this channel. And there's a breakdown that we got, and I want us to get this breakdown, and you will, at the end of the day, I want us to break down this 11 and see what exactly is hidden and why the country might be staring at, not as being explained as a revenue gain privatization, but a more a darker side of that program. I want us to get to that. And these members agreed. The KICC in that 11 list was actually diversionary, and was supposed to just hoodwink Kenyans. And we saw Kenyans across the political divide narrowly. Kenyans, the public, tend to understand that it was a problem just to privatize KICC. But what about the other 10? Because my good professor is saying the country is discussing about KICC, and there is no investor who can buy KICC from, because everyone knows it's an international, it's actually a national monument. And the country, the way the country has protested about it, it is very difficult, because even if you buy it, for you to be hosting those summits there, it will be a tall order, because organization will shy away because of that hostility. And my prof said that KICC was diversionary. And I agree with him, because for this explanation given by Kimani Ichung'wah at some point,
I've seen in the media a lot of talk.
Now listen to what Kimani Ichung'wah is saying, that government, it's a PPP, government have, I think, majority shares in KICC, and that is why they owe Nairobi County some bills, Kenya Power, Parliament. So Parliament gets spaces there, but at a lesser price, not at the standard market price. And so if we sell it and we cannot enjoy that privilege, that means that the amount of money that we'll be spending on parliamentary offices will be a big problem, even though I know that there is a plaza being built that will be housing the parliament's offices. But you know, this has also been a house for quite a number of other state offices. So that is not, the details is not in KICC, and KICC is not the problem. Prof is saying the problem is in these other details that I want you to get. Kindly subscribe to our channel and make sure you watch that part, because it's going to be very interesting, I promise you. Before we get deep into that, I am still reminding you about this boy Austin. So comes from the other side of Busia, suffered stroke, so was bedridden for nearly 3 years. So when he came out, there was nowhere to start. As a family, as children and all that. So this story was shared to me, and after an engagement with him, he wanted, and we agreed that he can have a portion meal because his mobility is a problem. So that's something he can do when he's seated. He can run the portion meal just around the place and run some small business just around the homestead. So we are working on a project of establishing him a portion meal, and we were working with a budget of around 80,000 to make sure that everything is set up and put. So far, by now we are at 24. Yes, 24,600. 24,600, we were chasing 80. So that one we are short by 56. Pole pole, but we believe it will be. So kindly partake of this and help me make sure that this is delivered. I believe that I'll not give up until, it's sorted. Now, Prof, I want us to make these observations. Do you know that nearly 40% of those parastatals lined up for privatization have direct impact on our food supply chain? Yes. That is what he's saying. And he's saying, look at Kenya Seed. Yes, it's a custodian. It's her place. Look at Mwea Rice. Look at KCC. Government is struggling with milk stabilization, milk sector stabilization. Look at the Western Kenya rice mill, and even look at Kenyan pipeline because it touches on fuel. And the Prof was making an observation that I want us to look at here. That we are privatizing institutions, or not institutions, parastatals, that have direct impact on our food. And as that is going on, we have a GMO debate. Yes, we lifted the ban on GMO last year, and after the country really tried to agitate, but the government got their way. So as we speak, GMO seeds are coming in the country because there is a thin line between regulating and meddling. As government might come as I want to regulate, the investor sees that as meddling. So that is something they're going to do. Number two, it's questionable because Kenya Seed has huge tracts of land. Huge tracts of land that it's not yet explained. So what is the fate of the land? And I remember when privatization was going on, I think that was in Western Kenya, Khalwale even raised the question of, this is our land. And where will that land, when they were objecting privatization, Mumias, they say, we gave our land, Assessors gave our land for this construction, so where will that land go? I wanted to listen to Mwea Rice farmers saying, no. They said, they're not going to accept that.
Belongs to the people of Mwea. Iyo tu ndio kampuni imebaki Mwea. Cotton Ginnery walikura. Mwea Cotton Ginnery. Sasa tuna Mwea Rice Mills. Pia inataka kwenda. Tumeomba hivi. Kama itauzwa, ipatiwe preference, inunuliwe na watu wa Mwea. Tuko pamoja? Hata kama we uko hapa na ni wa Mwea, lazima utetee ile factory ambao iko Nguruba. Tuko pamoja? Na tusimame kama watu wa Mwea, tuseme inaves wakati wa uchaguzi, jumuko na kura. Wacha tutoe gavana atoke Mwea. Wacha hata senator tutoe Mwea. Hata women rep tunaweza toa Mwea. Hata deputy governor anaweza toka Mwea. Sikura ndio inaongeanga. Tafadhali uchague watu wa Mwea. Na sana sana Ngariama mujipende, mutoe gavana kutoka Ngaria.
We are perplexed as farmers of Kirinyaga, and especially rice growers. We understand the government is interested to sell MRM, Mwea Rice Mills Company Limited. Mwea Rice Mills is a company limited owned by two people. It's a company for two people, rice farmers and the government. The government has majority shares of 55%, and rice growers have minimum shares of 45%. There is no way the government can sell MRM when Mwea Multi-Purpose Cooperative Society is standing as a member, as an owner of the company. So one, either the government wants to steal from the people and sell a company owned by farmers without consulting them. The Articles of Association says that if a member wants to sell his shares, he has to consult his partner. So MRGM are ready to buy the shares, 55%, and the government can walk away. On the event the government sells to anybody, then they are declaring war. Hata vita ya Israel na Hamas haijatosha. Haki nakwambia. Haitoshi. That mill will not be sold to anybody. And anybody who has an interest Because we have heard there are people who are visiting there wanting to buy. Please, asahau, The word to forget, he must forget. There is no meal which is being sold to anybody other than Moya Rice Growers Multi-Purpose Cooperative Society. Do you hear me?
We have had our meeting as MRGM interested parties. We have come here as farmers. I am here as the member of parliament for Moya constituency and at the same time as a farmer. We are saying Moya rice mills is not going to be sold to any outsiders. If the government intends to sell their 55% shareholding, they have an option and only one option to sell those shares to us Moya farmers through Moya rice growers. And that is the only option. There is no other option. This meal is not going nowhere. That's what we are saying. And we are not going to allow any outsider kukanyanga hapa Moya ati ananunua hii. Tumesikia iko watu wameonekana hapa Moya rice meal wakiangalia hii meal wakisema wanataka kununua. Wajipatie shughuli, haiendi mahali.
Now, you may need to know this. 2 regional mills are out to be folded and sold to individuals. Questionable. Questionable. And Moya, and that one for Western rice. Questionable. Because those are supposed to help there. So if you take them off the ownership, because government maybe have 50-50 shares with the other stakeholders, is saying very questionable. And you can see the request from the Moya team saying we should not be off it, we should be somewhere around it. Now, number 2, is Kenya Literature Bureau, and just a simple Google, KLB is also out to be privatized. So what's its mandate? Let's get it. Kenya Literature Bureau, KLB, is established under Kenya Literature Bureau Act Cap 209 of 1980 with the mandate to publish, print and disseminate literary, educational, cultural and scientific books and other materials. And the prof is saying that this is the custodian of the intellectual pride of a country. This is it. If we are giving this to private investor, someone outside, we are in a very dangerous transition moment. We have legalized LGBTQ. Yes, through the courts. We have a GMO debate, and the government is struggling to convince the populace that GMO is not bad food. We have an attempt to plant the Western culture here, the pop culture in the country, in Africa. And that has been done. As President William Ruto talks about foreign jobs, getting skills here and there so that you go and work in Germany. We have created that, and the prof is saying we stand eroding bit of what we're doing. Remember, we are also having a delicate CBC transition. By the way, this was highly informative. CBC transition, which is very delicate. We are still struggling with it. Not all the stakeholders understands how that will fall or where that will end. And we want to take such an important asset in the hands of an individual. Who, and remember, the curriculum was actually borrowed from Europe. Now we are bringing them to come and print the books. Question mark. That is category number 2. Category number 3. E-mobility. E-mobility is where we are looking for motor vehicle manufacturing. So motor vehicle manufacturing, we are talking about, and you know, there is a debate about climate change and climate friendly, climate-friendly motor vehicles, and that's where there has been issues of reports of e-mobility. You will see, is it electric cars and electric motorbikes, and remember there was an attempt of an electric motorbike in Mombasa and it backfired, and Mombasa residents said we don't want it. So what's happening here is, yes, Kenya Motor Vehicle Manufacturing, it will be handed over to maybe an investor. And in fact, this one, a Kenyan will not, no one from the country will actually manage. This is a preserve of the white intellects. It's a preserve of the Germans, of the Japans, and the US, and the Chinas of our time. So, as this is going on, e-mobility and the cost of energy, fuel, is not well managed. Yes, we are opening our doors for it. As much as it is well to be embraced, but is it going to be disruptive, or is going to be supportive of a transport sector? So, for example, is it about what we are getting? So the question here is it about what we are getting as far as the income is concerned, or just about what we are giving? Number 4 is the Kenya Pipeline and the national oil. Kenya Pipeline is the giant transporter of oil infrastructure in the country, and not just for Kenya, across the region. And then we have NOC, which is the national oil dependent on government. So we are taking a giant transporter of oil and we want to give it to someone to run. What do we mean? What do we mean? Does it mean we are not interested in whether there will be oil or not? How about if the person says they're not getting oil from place X and they're going to get such oil, and they bring us things that maybe are not even worth it? Because what about the impact of if we enter into a deal with an investor to take the Kenya Pipeline, and that deal and that person is supposed to supply to the other East African countries, but maybe it's gaining because the others are getting it from it? Is Kenya getting money, or we are giving our assets to people to invest, because people to make their own investments and take that money back there? It's a big question. There are others that are of national security. Now, from this breakdown, there's some insights we can make, and I want us to get these insights. Before that, I want to still take a moment and remind you about our fundraiser. Yes, this boy got stroke, so side moja yake haifanyi. He's been in the hospital for nearly 3 years. He's out, but still to pick up is a problem. Comes from the other side of Busia, had a family, wife and all that, and could not fend for himself. So we got, and I know we've always helped people kutoka hospital, but he's out. We just need to get him up in his feet. Nataka apate hiyo apportionment that I had mentioned, and that is why we are running the 100 shillings challenge. I believe if you extend probably by a day or two, we'll be able to achieve the target. And thank you very much for those who are sharing. I'm just so glad. Now, I want to interpret this. The privatization agenda, much as we explain it to the public as a plan to scoop some revenue, but deep down there is a Western agenda that is being pursued. Or rather, unknowingly or knowingly, but it cannot be knowingly, there are deeper interests in it. And it has been explained that some of the factors, some of the people that have pushed us to go into privatization is IMF. That it's part of austerity measures to make sure that we reduce on our spending. We don't bail out organizations and parastatals that are not returning any profit, even though we understand government is not in the business of profit. So the privatization, look at it, if you look at e-mobility, you look at the pipeline, you look at the agriculture space, you look at the curriculum, there is some line being drawn there. You can draw some lines. There could be deep Western agenda that is secretly being slipped through that privatization. And one of the criteria, one of the reasons how the 11 was settled on could not be exclusive, they are not making profit. There are some, like KNB, might not be making profit, but is it about profit? Not even a profit. Is it about an income or the value or its role in our education sector? That's the question. It may not be giving profit, but remember, for example, government cannot make profit from universities, even public universities. They don't make profit. But universities are places of education, which is something that a country needs in building its labor. So that's one insight you can make from that privatization. Number two, the proverbial revenue gains that is being pitched even by the treasury is very suspect. In the sense that much as we say we want to get more revenue, want to generate some revenue to help us offset some of our debts or so, if you look at the kind of, and that has been said, number one. Number two is that when they are run by private investors who have the competitive advantage, then government will be collecting taxes from it. So the big question here is, so whoever is buying this, is he interested to get taxes for the Kenyan government, or he is interested in pursuing that agenda? That's it. So, and it's very clear here that exclusively, yes, revenue is one-off, but what about tomorrow? If you sell Kenya Seed today and you get all the billions you want now, but what about tomorrow? Will you tomorrow then go say, I'm selling something else? It is not sustainable and it cannot be part of the plan. In fact, prophecy says privatization cannot be part of the big plan. It's just a contingency. Just like you cannot be in a house that because you have an emergency and you need to take your car to some leasing company, then you're saying that leasing is part of my program of running my plants in my house. No, it's not part of your program. It is an eventuality. Number three, we must ring-fence the privatization from excess foreign uptake. Oh. Now, what do we mean? Look, for example, the two mills. The Moya mills are saying, even is to be bought, let it be bought by the locals. Yes. We must ring-fence that out of this level, even if we must get what percentage. And if we are selling, because there are those, like, for example, the motor vehicle, only the white intellect maybe can manage. Maybe some of us, we don't have the expertise even to manage or even to run something different from what is being done. But we need to have a legal framework on how this is going to be done and to ring-fence it from excess foreign uptake, because it's not safe. When we just leave it open, it's not something that we'll actually welcome. Number three, the hidden land question must be well defined. If we are selling a parastatal with all its assets, are we also selling the land? We need to question it. And the land was being idle, so we've not been using. So if we are selling, what are we selling? To what extent? Because some of the land are actually lands that were ceded by some members of the community. And how do some areas benefit? Ladies and gentlemen, that was my take in this. I believe that we've had a discussion. I want to read what is your discussion, what are your thoughts about my discussion with Prof. Anonymous. Yeah, tulikubaliana kwamba leo aende anonymous. But I believe that it's not about him, it's not about his it's about the information. So let's take this discussion online and see what you're saying in the comment section.